How the US and Israel attack Iran. Inside Operation Epic Fury. Imagine missiles raining from the sky while stealth jets glide undetected through enemy airspace. Every second counts. Every strike is calculated. The fate of a nation hangs in the balance. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive, coordinated offensive against Iran. This was not random. It was not reactive. It was precise, deadly, and preemptive, designed to cripple Iran's military while targeting its highest leadership. Within hours of the initial barrage, officials confirmed that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, had been killed in the strikes on Tehran. The announcement shocked the world and marked a turning point in the conflict. The U.S. called its part Operation Epic Fury, while Israel dubbed its mission Roar the Lion. Every move was synchronized to hit Iranian targets at the exact same moment, creating maximum shock and confusion across the country. The initial focus was on Tehran's most critical areas, including University Street, the Jamhuri District, and Pasdaster Street. These weren't ordinary neighborhoods. They were the nerve centers of the Iranian government, housing key command hubs and strategic offices. The first wave was a surgical strike designed to blind Iran's defenses and paralyze its military infrastructure. Industrial and aerospace hubs in Karaj were devastated first. Then came Tehran, shaking the nation's political heart. Calm followed, sending shockwaves through the ideological core of the nation. And finally, Kermanshah and Isfahan, crucial centers for nuclear and drone programs, were obliterated. At the core of this operation was a tactic known as time on target. All missiles, aircrafts, and drones were calculated to strike at the same time. All the submarines, destroyers, stealth bombers, fighter jets all turned to Iranian targets in the same second. This led to complete systemic shock. The air defenses of Iran were never given a good opportunity to retaliate. The U.S. had launched sophisticated electronic warfare and cyber attacks that extended to space and down to the ground. False signals flooded Iranian radar screens, confusing operators at critical moments. Systems like the homegrown Baver batteries and Russian-supplied S-300 and S-400 units were overwhelmed and collapsed under the assault. Hundreds of ABM-160 miniature air-launched decoys put ghost squadrons on enemy radar. It appeared that dozens of F-15 and F-16 were on their way to Iran, but stealth fighters had already sneaked by unnoticed. F-35 and probably F-22 Raptors hit the enemy airspace with deep strikes, clearing the path to the subsequent waves of precision attacks. The attack took 3 destructive waves. The first wave disabled air-to-air sites, radar installations, and Iran's air defense headquarters. The second targeted ballistic missile launchers, limiting Iran's ability to retaliate. The third wave hit military manufacturing facilities and strategic production hubs. Destroyers of the Arleigh Burke class, including the USS Thomas Hudner, fired Tomahawk land attack missiles that flew low, hugging the terrain to evade radar while striking radar bases, command bunkers, and control nodes. About 30 minutes later, B-2 Spirit stealth bombers struck hardened bunkers and strategic sites of high value. Meanwhile, F-15E Strike Eagles hunted mobile missile launchers, convoys, and secondary command posts. Aircraft that ran low on fuel or ammunition didn't return immediately. They refueled mid-air and returned for additional sorties, maintaining constant pressure on Iran's defenses. Carrier strike groups added another layer of assault. FA-18 Super Hornets fired anti-radiation missiles to hunt any remaining radar operators, while F-35Cs gathered intelligence and struck high-threat targets that older jets couldn't reach. E-2D Hawkeyes coordinated hundreds of aircraft across the theater, ensuring every strike was timed with extreme precision and efficiency. By sunrise, the coalition's first systemic shock had succeeded. Iran's radar systems were blinded, its nuclear and drone programs were crippled, and its missile forces were disrupted. Strategic command nodes were thrown into chaos. Iran did respond. Launching what it called Operation Truthful Promise, Tehran fired waves of ballistic missiles and drones at U.S. bases in allied countries across the Middle East. The UAE's Al Dhafar Air Base reported casualties. Bahrain's U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters was targeted. Kuwait sealed its airspace, and Israel turned on national sirens. To counter the attack, coalition forces continued to have air superiority and operational control. The first attack had broken down the capability of Iran to organize a counterattack. The level of technology, the timeline, and orchestration together with the scale were the factors that made the Operation Epic Fury bigger than any other operation. Communications were jammed, fake radar signals were introduced by cyber attacks, and stealth aircrafts were able to break through defenses with no detection. Repeated sorties were made possible by mid-air refueling, making the offensive interminable. The sea, air, cyber, and space realms all worked together, each supporting the others and leaving Iran stumbling. This multi-domain attack was aimed to defeat all levels of the Iranian military infrastructure, making the conventional means of defense irrelevant. Operation Epic Fury changed the present mode of war. It proved that speed, precision, and synchronization were capable of outperforming brute force. Multi-domain attacks sought to defeat even the most sophisticated defenses and served to show that coordinated, cyber-enabled warfare is now the dominant U.S. form of conflict in the 21st century. The effects went way beyond the battlefield. The Middle East emerged into a new period of uncertainty. The need to change the leadership in Iran was triggered by the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The regional powers reevaluated their plans, and world superpower monitored the situation. The world was now witnessing the gigantic strength of contemporary preemptive war, organized, technologically sophisticated, and apparently invincible. Another effect of the operation was the cost and human toll of such a war. The human rights groups alleged that the bombing program had a high civilian cost, with the killing of children in the strikes in schools and residential places, which attracted international criticism in humanitarian agencies. In spite of these positions, the coalition argued that it was only trying to weaken a regime that posed a threat to the stability in the region. Washington and Jerusalem leaders defended the offensive as a necessary measure to prevent future attacks and to eliminate capabilities that may harm neighboring states and international interests. However, the international responses were divided. The strikes were condemned by some governments, which demanded de-escalation and diplomatic resolution, whereas some governments supported what they viewed as resistance against a destabilizing force. Russia particularly objected to the U.S. strike on false grounds and denounced the assassination attempt of Ayatollah Khamenei as a cynical act of violence. The confrontation also brought up concerns of international law, sovereignty, and boundaries of military intervention. Analysts say the size and objectives of Operation Epic Fury question conventional wisdom and may have a significant future impact on the justification and subsequent prosecution of wars. Operation Epic Fury was not any other military assault, but it was a turning point in the war of the 21st century. To the military planners, it demonstrated how well-orchestrated multi-domain operations were capable of breaking down even well-fortified targets. To those countries looking on, it was a shock of how technology superiority can alter the calculus of war. In its most fundamental form, the campaign was a miracle of time where conventional defense forces become useless. The Operation Epic Fury will be remembered as one of the most coordinated and destructive operations in the contemporary war history. If you found this inside look gripping, share, subscribe, and comment below. Tell us what part of Operation Epic Fury shocked you the most.